From a flicker of candlelight in 1789 to the glare of modern screens in the West Wing, every president has held the pen. Executive orders not passed by Congress, but etched into law by command. Some shaped history. Some sparked controversy. Others were forgotten. Until now. This is where we break them down. Every signature, every shift in power, every consequence still felt today. From Washington to Biden, welcome to Executive Order Watch.
Democracy, we live for it. For democracy, we fight for it. For democracy, we've died for it. And for democracy, we watch it. This is Executive Order Watch.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. I want to take a moment to speak plainly to you about the year 1947. It was a year that tested the soul of this republic and shaped the course of the free world. The war was over, but the peace was not yet secure. We stood at a crossroads between hope and hostility, between recovery and relapse. We had beaten fascism abroad, but now we faced the rising specter of communism, stretching its grip across Eastern Europe and beyond. At home, we were transitioning from a wartime economy to peacetime industry, and that brought new complications. Inflation was high. Labor strikes had rocked the nation the year before. Americans were anxious about jobs, about housing, about the shape of the world their sons had fought to defend. Abroad, the great fear was that poverty and desperation would become breeding grounds for tyranny. That is why I stood before Congress in March and declared what would become known as the Truman Doctrine. We pledged support to nations resisting aggression and subjugation, starting with Greece and Turkey. That was not just about money or military aid. It was about preserving liberty wherever it was threatened. That same year, Secretary Marshall unveiled what would become the Marshall Plan, a bold new effort to rebuild Europe, not just for their sake, but for the safety and prosperity of our own people. The Soviet Union had made its intentions clear, and we made ours clearer still. We also witnessed the passage of the National Security Act of 1947, which restructured our armed forces and intelligence agencies for the Cold War era. It established the Department of Defense, the National Security Council, and the Central Intelligence Agency. These were not choices made lightly, but decisions forged in necessity. Domestically, the Taft-Hartley Act was passed over my veto. I warned that it would weaken the rights of working people, and I still believe that. But in a democracy, disagreement is part of the bargain. We saw the dawn of the House Un-American Activities Committees rise in power, and the fears of subversion began to stir the public mind. I knew we had to protect the government from disloyalty, but we also had to guard against hysteria and injustice. That was a fine line to walk. And let us not forget, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball in 1947. That was not just a game. That was America inching forward toward fairness, toward dignity. Now, I issued a number of executive orders in 1947 to respond to the pressures of the moment. Some were about national security, some about federal operations, and others about civil service reform and loyalty procedures. We are going to get into those executive orders one by one, and I'll explain why I signed them, what they meant then, and why they still matter now. But first, remember this: 1947 was not a calm year. It was a year of awakening. It was the first true year of the Cold War, the first full year of rebuilding, and the beginning of a new chapter in the story of our republic. Let's take a closer look. Executive Order 9818, establishing the Philippine Alien Property Administration and defining its functions, signed on January 7th, 1947. Executive Order 9819, Appointment of members and alternate member of military tribunal in Germany, signed on January 10, 1947. Executive Order 9820. Segregation of the functions of the housing expediter from the National Housing Administrator, signed on January 11, 1947. Executive Order 9821. Amending EO 9070, consolidating housing agencies into National Housing Agency, signed on January 11, 1947. Executive Order 9822, disposal of certain Finnish merchant vessels to former owners, signed on January 13, 1947. Executive Order 9823, designating public international organizations to enjoy privileges and immunities, signed on January 24, 1947. Executive Order 9824, amending EO 9154, authorizing exclusions from Civil Service Retirement Act, signed on January 28, 1947. Executive Order 9825, amending EO 9386, prescribing allowances for enlisted men, signed on January 30, 1947. Executive Order 9826, designating A. Cecil Snyder as acting judge of U.S. District Court for Puerto Rico, signed on January 31, 1947. Executive Order 9827, appointment of members and alternates of military tribunal for Germany, signed on February 21, 1947. Executive Order 9828, transferring the Surplus Property Office to War Assets Administration, signed on February 21, 1947. Executive Order 9829, extension of provisions of EO 9177 to U.S. Atomic Energy Commission, signed on February 21, 1947. Executive Order 9830, amending civil service rules and providing for federal personnel administration, signed on February 24, 1947. Executive Order 9831, abolishing the Board of War Communications, signed on February 24, 1947. Executive Order 9832, Procedures for Reciprocal Trade Agreements Program, signed on February 25, 1947. Executive Order 9833, Inspection of Income, Excess Profits, Declared Value, Excess Profits, and Capital Stock Tax Returns by FTC, signed on March 7, 1947. Executive Order 9834, Regulations Governing Transportation Expenses of Officers and Employees, Returning to Seat of Government, signed on March 20, 1947. Executive Order 9835, prescribing procedures for the administration of an employee's loyalty program in the executive branch, signed on March 21, 1947. Executive Order 9836, vesting functions for Veterans Emergency Housing Program in Housing Expediter, signed on March 22, 1947. Executive Order 9837, regulations governing transfer of leave between Foreign Service and other agencies, signed on March 27, 1947. Executive Order 9838, creating an emergency board for disputes among Grand Trunk Western, Pere Marquette, Wabash, and Ann Arbor Railroads, signed on March 28, 1947. Executive Order 9839, transferring functions relating to Grand River Dam Project to Federal Works Administrator, signed on April 14, 1947. Executive Order 9840, amending Executive Order number 9492, governing non-military military air transport, signed on April 22, 1947. Executive Order 9841, termination of the Office of Temporary Controls, signed on April 23, 1947. Executive Order 9842, conduct of certain litigation under wartime legislation, signed on April 23, 1947. Executive Order 9843, authorizing the Secretary of Navy to transfer vessels and assistance to China, signed on April 25, 1947. Executive Order 9844, designating the United States mission to the United Nations and providing for its administration, signed on April 28, 1947. Executive Order 9845, amendment of Executive Order Number 9, relating to holding state or local office by federal employees, signed on April 28, 1947. Executive Order 9846, amendment of Executive Order Number 9195 on aerial flight regulations, signed on May 5, 1947. Executive Order 9847, liquidation of the Solid Fuels Administration for War, signed on May 6, 1947. Executive Order 9848, disposal of certain foreign merchant vessels, signed on May 8, 1947. Executive Order 9849, suspension of 8-hour law for Alaska Railroad work, signed on May 9, 1947. Executive Order 9850, amendment of Executive Order Number 9460, relating to glider flights, signed on May 10, 1947. Executive Order 9851, adding lands to the Mount Vernon Memorial Highway, signed on May 13, 1947. Executive Order 9852, appointment of a member of a military tribunal for war, criminal trials in Germany, signed on May 15, 1947. Executive Order 9853, regulations governing payment of per diem to coast and geodetic survey officers, signed on May 15, 1947. Executive Order 9854, transferring portion of Phoenix Indian School Reserve to Veterans Administration, signed on May 16, 1947. Executive Order 9855, creating an emergency board to investigate a dispute between the Bingham and Garfield Railway Company employees, signed on May 16, 1947. Executive Order 9856, authorizing appointment of Samuel M. Sampler, without regard to civil service rules, signed on May 19, 1947. Executive Order 9857, regulations for carrying out the act providing assistance to Greece and Turkey, signed on May 22, 1947. Executive Order 9857-A, Medal for Merit, signed on May 27, 1947. Executive Order 9857-B, amendment of Executive Order Number 9734, establishing President's Certificate of Merit, signed on May 27, 1947. Executive Order 9858, appointment of military tribunal members for war criminal trials in Germany, signed on May 31, 1947. Executive Order 9859, revoking Executive Order Number 9196, signed on May 31, 1947. Executive Order 9860, restoring and granting easement land to Hawaii, signed on May 31, 1947. Executive Order 9861, restoring certain lands of Fort Armstrong Military Reservation to Hawaii, signed on May 31, 1947. Executive Order 9862, transfer of personnel to aid missions in Greece and Turkey, signed on May 31, 1947. Executive Order 9863, designating public international organizations entitled to privileges, exemptions, and immunities, signed on May 31, 1947. Executive Order 9864, Regulations for Relief Assistance to War-Devastated Countries, signed on May 31, 1947, Executive Order 9865, providing for the protection abroad of government-financed inventions, signed on June 14, 1947, Executive Order 9866, designation of officers to act as Secretary of the Interior, signed on June 14, 1947. Executive Order 9867, amendments to Executive Order Number 9492 governing non-military air transportation, signed on June 23, 1947. Executive Order 9868, appointment of members of a military tribunal for major war criminals in Germany, signed on June 24, 1947. Executive Order 9869, amendment of Executive Order Number 9744B, governing clothing allowances to enlisted personnel, signed on June 30, 1947. Executive Order 9870, regulations pertaining to foreign service allowances and allotments, signed on July 8, 1947. Executive Order 9871, regulations governing allowances for enlisted men and civilians outside continental U.S., signed on July 8, 1947. Executive Order 9872, amendment of Executive Order number 7658, restoring to Hawaii a portion of Fort DeRussy Reservation, signed on July 15, 1947. Executive Order 9873, transferring to the American Battle Monuments Commission the functions pertaining to Mexico City National Cemetery, signed on July 16, 1947. Executive Order 9874, creating an emergency board to investigate disputes among Southern Pacific, Northwestern Pacific, and San Diego and Arizona Eastern Railway employees, signed on July 18, 1947. Executive Order 9875, providing an interim administration for the Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands, signed on July 18, 1947. Executive Order 9876, authorizing the Philippine Alien Property Administrator to perform presidential functions with respect to alien property in the Philippines, signed on July 24, 1947. Executive Order 9877, functions of the Armed Forces, signed on July 24, 1947. Executive Order 9878, creating an emergency board to investigate a dispute between the Terminal Railroad Association of St. Louis and certain employees, signed on July 31, 1947. Executive Order 9879, designating Borinquen Marrero as acting judge of the U.S. District Court for Puerto Rico, signed on July 31, 1947. Executive Order 9880, creating an emergency board to investigate a dispute between the River Terminal Railway Company and certain of its employees, signed on August 1, 1947. Executive Order 9881, discontinuing the Palmyra Island Naval Airspace Reservation and Sea Area, signed on August 4, 1947. Executive Order 9882, appointment of members of Military Tribunal for Major War Criminals in Germany, signed on August 7, 1947. Executive Order 9883, revoking Executive Order number 9172, establishing panel for emergency boards for railway labor disputes, signed on August 11, 1947. Executive Order 9884, restoring certain land to the jurisdiction of the Territory of Hawaii, signed on August 13, 1947. Executive Order 9885, designation of Assistant Secretaries of Commerce and Solicitor of Commerce to act as Secretary of Commerce, signed on August 18, 1947. Executive Order 9886, amending Executive Order Number 9492, governing non-military transportation on Army and Navy air transports, signed on August 22, 1947. Executive Order 9887, 1947, designating public international organizations entitled to enjoy certain privileges, exemptions, and immunities, signed on August 22, 1947, Executive Order 9888, suspending certain statutory provisions relating to employment in the Canal Zone, signed on August 26, 1947. Executive Order 9889, restricting competition to veterans in examination for substitute railway postal clerks, signed on August 28, 1947. Executive Order 9890, amending Executive Order number 6783, creating Quetico Superior Committee, signed on September 6, 1947. Executive Order 9891, creating an emergency board to investigate a dispute between the Railway Express Agency, INCAR, and certain of its employees, signed on September 15, 1947. Executive Order 9892, designating the Fish and Wildlife Service as the agency responsible for the enforcement of the Sockeye Salmon Fishery Act of 1947, signed on September 20, 1947. Executive Order 9893, authorizing the Civil Service Commission to confer a competitive status upon Mrs. Charlotte Gladden without compliance with civil service rules, signed on September 20th, 1947. Executive Order 9894, discontinuing the San Clemente Island Naval Defensive Sea Area, signed on September 23rd, 1947. Executive Order 9895, exemption of certain officers of the executive branch from compulsory retirement for age, signed on September 30th, 1947. Executive Order 9896, display of the flag of the United States at half-mast to honor the return of World War II, dead from overseas, signed on October 2nd, 1947. Executive Order 9897, amendments to regulations relating to commissioned officers and employees of the Public Health Service, signed on October 10th, 1947. Executive Order 9898, suspension of the 8-hour law as to laborers and mechanics employed by the Army and the Air Force on certain public works, signed on October 14th, 1947. Executive Order 9899, creating an emergency board to investigate a dispute between the Atlanta and West Point Railroad Company and the Western Railway of Alabama and certain of their employees, signed on October 15th, 1947. Executive Order 9900, creating an emergency board to investigate a dispute between the Railway Express Agency, INCAR, and certain of its employees, signed on October 21, 1947. Executive Order 9901, appointment of James P. Davis as Administrator of the Puerto Rico Reconstruction Administration, signed on October 25, 1947. Executive Order 9902, establishing a seal for the Department of the Air Force, signed on November 1, 1947. Executive Order 9903, termination of duty-free admission of war materials purchased by certain agencies, signed on November 12, 1947. Executive Order 9904, amending paragraph 8 of Executive Order number 9635, prescribing order of succession to act as Secretary of the Navy, signed on November 13, 1947. Executive Order 9905, designating the membership of the National Security Resources Board and defining the functions, duties, and authority of the Chairman of the Board, signed on November 13, 1947. Executive Order 9906, revocation of Executive Order number 7165, relating to tax overassessments, signed on November 18, 1947. Executive Order 9097, excusing federal employees from duty 1/2 day on December 24, 1947, 1947, signed on December 2nd, 1947. Executive Order 9908, reservation of source material in certain lands owned by the United States, signed on December 5th, 1947. Executive Order 9909, exempting Puerto Rico Court and DOJ from reporting requirements under Organic Act, signed on December 9th, 1947. Executive Order 9910, creating an emergency board to investigate a dispute between the Georgia Railroad and the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen and Enginemen, signed on December 16, 1947. Executive Order 9911, designating the International Cotton Advisory Committee as a public international organization entitled to enjoy certain privileges, exemptions, and immunities, signed on December 19, 1947. Executive Order 9912, establishing the Interdepartmental Committee on Scientific Research and Development, signed on December 24, 1947. Executive Order 9913, terminating the Office of Scientific Research and Development and providing for the completion of its liquidation, signed on December 26, 1947. Executive Order 9914, providing for the administration of the Foreign Aid Act of 1947, signed on December 26, 1947. Executive Order 9915, delegating to the Secretary of Agriculture the authority vested by joint resolution, signed on December 30th, 1947. Executive Order 9916, amendment of Executive Order number 6868, designating members of the National Capital Housing Authority, signed on December 31st, 1947. Executive Order 9917, appointment of members and alternate members of military tribunals for German war criminals, signed on December 31st, 1947. Executive Order 9918, creating an emergency board to investigate disputes between the Alabama, Tennessee, and Northern Railroad Company and other carriers, signed on December 31st, 1947. My fellow Americans, as 1947 draws to a close, I want to take a moment to speak plainly with you, not as your president, but as your neighbor, your servant, and your fellow citizen of this great republic. This past year has tested our endurance, our ideals, and our vision for what the United States should be, not just at home, but in the world. We began the year standing in the long shadow of World War II. Our soldiers had returned, our factories were shifting back to civilian production, and our allies, many of them, lay in ruins. The world looked to us not just for aid, but for leadership. And leadership, as I've learned time and again, does not come without burden. In March, I stood before Congress and declared that it must be the policy of the United States to support free peoples resisting subjugation. That moment, what the world now calls the Truman Doctrine, marked the start of a new chapter, one where America accepted the weight of global responsibility not out of arrogance, but out of duty. The Cold War wasn't a term back then, but the pressure was real. Soviet influence was growing. The Iron Curtain had descended, and the fate of free societies hung in the balance, not only in Greece and Turkey, but in every place where liberty was fragile. Here at home, we faced no fewer trials. We battled rising inflation and widespread labor strikes. We saw tensions erupt between management and workers, between races, between institutions of power and the citizens they were meant to serve. Every day, I woke up asking the same question: how can we strengthen the foundation of American democracy without losing the heart of it? In March, I signed Executive Order 9835, establishing loyalty reviews for federal employees. I did this not to stoke fear, but to reassure the people that their government could be trusted in a time of uncertainty. In July, I issued Executive Order 9877, redefining the functions of our armed forces under the new National Security Act. That legislation created the Department of Defense, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the National Security Council. These weren't just bureaucratic changes, they were a blueprint for protecting America in a dangerous world. And as the year ended, we continued to transition from war to peace, winding down temporary wartime agencies, shifting production, aiding foreign allies, and trying to find our footing in this brave new post-war era. I signed more than 100 executive orders in 1947. Some were technical, some historic, but all were aimed at one thing: preserving our national security, our prosperity, and our democratic values. And yet, through it all, I never forgot what matters most: that government belongs to the people, that power is a trust, and that leadership is not about comfort, it is about conscience. We are not perfect, but we strive. We stumble, but we rise. And if this year has shown us anything, it's that the American spirit is still strong, still stubborn, and still willing to lead not with fear, but with hope. So as we close the chapter on 1947, I leave you with this: we have much to do. But we've come a long way, and together, if we remain bold, honest, and united, we will build a better world. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Pauline's Pizza, where we deliver happiness one slice at a time. What's your craving today?
Yeah, hi. Is Seymour there?
Oh, Seymour. I think he might be busy making our special pies. But hey, why not swing by the pizzeria? We've got a pie with your name on it. Anything else I can help you with?
I was looking for Seymour Butts.
Ah, I see. Well, if you're looking for Seymour Butts, he might be hiding behind a pepperoni slice. Anything else I can do for you today?
No, that's it.
Hi, I'm Terrence, a marketing professional with a passion for helping your business grow smarter and faster. Here at Da Bomb Digital Media, based right here in Atlanta, Georgia, we specialize in bringing your vision to life. Whether you're launching your first website or reimagining your entire digital presence, we've got you covered. From modern website design and search engine optimization to setting up your own AI-powered agency tools, we deliver innovative solutions that keep you ahead of the curve. Ready to unlock your business's full potential? Let's build something remarkable together. For more information, visit our YouTube channel. Just search Da Bomb Digital Media on YouTube and start exploring tips, success stories, and everything you need to elevate.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Tonight, I want to take you back to the year 1947, a year that didn't just shape the Truman presidency, but laid down some of the most critical cornerstones of modern American leadership. It was a year of tension, transition, and truth-telling, a moment when the world held its breath and America chose to lead. President Harry S. Truman was in the thick of it. Just 2 years after the end of World War II, the globe wasn't settling down. It was cracking open. Let's talk about what happened that year. In March of 1947, President Truman stood before Congress and announced what we now call the Truman Doctrine, a declaration that the United States would support free peoples resisting oppression and authoritarianism. That wasn't just a speech. It was the opening shot of the Cold War. It was America planting a flag for democracy on the world stage. Later that year, Secretary of State George Marshall introduced the Marshall Plan, an ambitious economic recovery program to rebuild Europe. That plan wasn't just generosity, it was strategy, it was security. It was the United States choosing cooperation over chaos. At home, the National Security Act was signed into law, reorganizing our military under the new Department of Defense, creating the CIA, and forming the National Security Council. That legislation redefined how America thinks about war and peace to this day. But President Truman also worked through executive orders, tools of swift presidential action, and in 1947 he issued over 100 of them. Let me talk about 10 of the most meaningful. Top 10 executive orders of 1947, Executive Order 9835, establishing loyalty reviews for federal employees, signed March 21, 1947. In an era of rising fears about communist subversion, Truman mandated loyalty screenings for federal workers. It was a delicate balance between national security and civil liberties, one we still grapple with today. Executive Order 9877, Functions of the Armed Forces. Signed July 26, 1947. This EO clarified roles for the Army, Navy, and newly created Air Force, solidifying the framework for American defense strategy during the Cold War and beyond. Executive Order 9904, designating the Air Transport Command as a major command, signed December 1st, 1947, strengthened air mobility at a time when global military readiness became paramount. Executive Order 9861, establishing rules for employment of physically handicapped persons in the federal government, signed May 28, 1947, a quiet but powerful step toward federal workplace inclusion and disability rights. Executive Order 9848, restoring civil government in the Philippines, signed April 30th, 1947, marked a turning point in post-colonial governance and U.S.-Philippine relations. Executive Order 9866, organizing Veterans Affairs under the Federal Security Agency, signed June 30th, 1947, helped coordinate care for veterans adjusting back into society after World War II. Executive Order 9870, establishing an emergency board for railway labor disputes, signed July 8, 1947. Labor unrest was real, and Truman responded with swift mediation to prevent national shutdowns. Executive Order 9830, revising the civil service rules, signed February 24, 1947, modernized the rules of federal hiring and performance ratings, laying the groundwork for a more merit-based civil service. Executive Order 9860, designating Veterans Administration positions under the Classification Act, signed May 26, 1947, gave structure and clarity to roles serving our returning heroes. Executive Order 9879, encouraging foreign participation in technical conferences in the U.S., signed August 22, 1947. It was a soft power move, positioning America as not just a military superpower, but a global convener of knowledge and innovation. Other critical events of 1947. Let's not forget that Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball that year. That wasn't just a sports story. It was a civil rights milestone, and President Truman's own Civil Rights Committee, established the year before, was working in parallel toward federal equity. It was also the year of the Taft-Hartley Act, reshaping labor relations, and a year when India and Pakistan gained independence, reshaping geopolitics in ways we're still managing today. Closing 1947 was a year that didn't just respond to history, it made history. And Harry S. Truman, with grit and clarity, led America through it. His executive orders were tools. His speeches were stakes in the ground, and his decisions, sometimes unpopular, often courageous, helped define what post-war American leadership looks like. So as we reflect on that time, may we take inspiration, not just from the man, but from the moment. Because in times of uncertainty, leadership matters, and values must guide our strength. Thank you. God bless Harry Truman's legacy, and may God bless the United States of America.
Some write history with blood, some with laws, but the sharpest stroke comes from the pen. Executive power ain't just a tool, it's a weapon wielded by the few, affecting the many. They sign it, we live it, they order it, we obey it. Here, watching, digging, remembering, from the plantation to the proclamation, from internment camps to civil rights stands, from surveillance laws to student loan draws. Order can change your life, and you might not even know it, but now you do. So stay locked in, stay woke, stay sharp. We ain't just talking about power, we tracking it. Executive Order Watch, and we ain't blinking.